What's up, guys? It's here Edgar Ruiz from Lei Tai Project, and today we have an awesome guest, one of my friends, from the USA team. Very, very, very thankful because he's here with us, and this is the 20th podcast. So I know many of you know this guy. He's one of the best, in this last years in Sanda and other sports. His name is Vincent Meng, and he's representing US in 65 kilograms, sorry. And I hope you like this podcast. Vincent, thank you so much. Good morning. Tell me, man, how are you?
Good morning. Good. Thank you for having me. Awesome opportunity to share what we love.
Yeah, thank you, man. And thank you because many people this podcast is in Spanish and English, and many people from Latin America are going to know you. And I know many people knows I know from Taekwondo and Sanda and other sports, I think. And it's gonna be an awesome podcast. And this is your podcast, bro. I don't know, can we start like when you start, like, well, what's your name, how old are you, when did you start, all that thing.
Yes. All right. Yeah. Once again, my name is Vincent Meng. I started martial arts when I was actually 3. Was kind of, well, not kind of. I was born into a martial art family. Both my father, he started martial arts when he was 10. And my mother started when she was, her whole family, my grandfather, her brothers, all my uncles, they all Taekwondo practitioners. And so naturally, they brainwashed me. My parents, they always joke around, they brainwashed me with Power Rangers. And so, when I was 2, 3, I was like, man, I want to be a Power Ranger. So that's kind of how I got motivated, how I started martial arts. Similar story. I'm sure everybody loves the Power Rangers growing up, at least back in the 90s, right? So then, once I started, I loved it. Never looked back. Of course, I was a still young kid, so it was just me enjoying, class and training. And then in, I don't know, around middle school, probably when I was like 12, 13, I was like, man, I started competing at a young age. And that was the time around I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I want to take this to a high level. I want to be a world champion. I want to go to the Olympics. At the time I was competing in Taekwondo, being an Olympic sport. And so I was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to take it as far as I can. So I want to be the best. And, 20 plus years later, still going at it, still trying to reach goals and, represent everybody that made me who I am today.
Yeah, man. And I know your family, I know your parents, they're really nice people, and your brothers and everything. And that's something that I really like, because this podcast is like now, like, we're talking about, like, we're going to focus on the family side a little bit, because many people like us, like, like me, my father, he was a martial artist when he was young, and but he was in karate and then taekwondo, and then he took me to karate and taekwondo, and I never, like, I know I don't like this until they brought me to the kung fu, and then, like, in that moment my heroes was the teenage, like, the turtles,
Oh yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
yeah, and, like, oh man, like, the coon and this and that, I want to do this, like, you the Power Rangers, right? So
Right.
everyone have a hero, so and and I know your dad, he has a back, well, what is your background? Because I think you're, as you said, like, your dad is a taekwondo, and then your mother, he's also a martial artist.
Yeah, so my paternal grandfather, or I'm sorry, maternal grandfather. So my mom's father, he was a grandmaster in Taekwondo in Korea.
Wow.
So my mom and her brothers all grew up doing Taekwondo, and he was one of the big head judges to certify anybody in Taekwondo in Korea for black belts in the Kukiwon headquarters.
Wow.
So of course, when they moved to the States, he got a job, provide for his family. But my uncles and of course my mom kind of carried on that legacy, continued to teach martial arts. They all have their own schools. And my dad, he started, actually, I believe his first art was judo.
Awesome.
when he was 10. And then when he moved to the States, he took a break. And then my grandmother, she's like, oh, I found, or maybe it was my grandfather's like, oh, I found you a Kung Fu school. Do you want to start? And then it ended up being a Taekwondo school. Because my grandfather, they didn't know the difference at the time. And so I think that's how my father got involved with Taekwondo. But then, he kind of went back to Chinese martial arts, Shaolin Kung Fu. And when after high school, he found Wing Chun, and, he fully pursued that. After high school, he went back to Hong Kong, China, and stayed there for a year. And he's like, this is what I want to do full time. So
Wow.
his background starts from, Taekwondo, judo, and wushu. He went and trained the Beijing sports, and once upon a time. And then Wing Chun is what he found that was his, true love.
Passion.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I know you have your family have the Meng school, but he have a franchise, I think,
Yeah,
in
it's a international organization. Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So a lot of, we're actually in every continent except Australia. So
Okay.
for Shaolin Wing Chun is our system.
Yeah, man. I really I follow your father too, and that is something that I really like because it's a legacy, as you said before. Like something that like people like us, that
Yes.
been doing this for years. Like we want to leave a legacy for our children, whatever.
Yes.
And tell me, man, like how's that like you're living in the martial arts family? Because I think like I don't know, like what is the daily thing like you're always like trying to compete because your brother's also athletes, one of the best
Yes.
people. So what is like the daily basis on your house? I don't know. I don't know.
uh, I think it's crazy because, going into martial art or born into a martial art family, I had a lot of people ask me, like I remember when I was 5 years old, people were asking me like, oh, are you going to be, as good as your dad someday? Are you going to take over someday? And it's like, I'm 5. I'm just trying to have fun. It's like, why are you asking me like a 5-year-old those type of questions? And so, I always had that, those different um, people ask me those sort of questions. But at the end, I was, of course, now especially, I'm more grateful that, I was born into the family I am. My parents pushed me to do what I'm doing. And of course, every kid wants to be a kid. There was a time, if I said that, oh, I want to train every single day, that's a lie. There's times where I wanted to be a kid. Even now, it's like, tired, my body, but, my parents didn't let me, say, oh, I don't want to do this, or, they kept me disciplined, and, it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Definitely made it worth it. And in our family, they believe martial arts, my parents don't require us to compete. They don't require us. But they say, martial arts is part of the education. So when you are 18, you don't want to do it anymore, you can be done. And, you never have to compete, only if you want to. But martial arts is kind of like going to school, just part of your life skills. They don't teach you the life skills that we learn in martial arts, right, in school. So that's how they, that was their philosophy or perspective when it came to martial arts.
Yeah, I love that way that what you said because it's the same thing that I always tell I always told the same thing is what I said to my wife about like I don't care if my kids don't want to compete, but martial arts gonna be part of their discipline and education because yeah, I think in martial arts we find something that we never gonna learn in school in a regular school
Right.
about discipline, values, all
Yes.
that things. And again, like I really don't want to them to compete if they don't want, but if they want, go ahead. I'm going to support you, man. And but how's this? How that like between your brothers? Like, hey, who's in the restroom first? In the morning. Like,
Honestly, like, we're all very, very competitive, but we're we're all pretty tight, pretty close, and we don't really get competitive. Even in the training, like, we'll here and there we'll get like a little feisty, competitive. But I mean, we have a big age difference. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 7 years older than Spencer, the middle one, and 8 years with the youngest, Erickson. So they're more competitive, and they're probably closer than I am with them because that age difference make a difference. But we never like fight about like, oh, who goes first or anything like that.
I don't know, man. I always like how they like how's their daily basis, because I'm very competitive too. When I was a kid with my sister, and I always want to be the best. But and we fought
Yeah.
a lot. And she's like a 4 or 5 years older than me, and I'm 38 right now. She's like a 42, I think. But when we were kids, we always trying to fight for everything. But
Uh,
yeah, but hey, man, and how do you I don't know. Right now, you are like teaching, right? Like you're a coach, right?
yes.
What is your perspective as a coach when with the young athletes, or with the young kids?
I think, yeah, I think to be honest, it helps me as much as I'm helping them in a sense that, like, getting that perspective as a coach or a teacher. I think the biggest thing about being a coach or instructor is knowing your audience, knowing your student. Everybody's a little different. Like, even if I talk about my brothers, very, very different. They're very close in age, 15 months apart, I think. Yeah, 15 months, but they're very different personalities. So, if I coached or helped one brother the same I did the other, it wouldn't work for one of them. So they're very different. So with the kids, it's like everybody's a little different. Everybody has little goals. And of course, some parents put their kids in because they want discipline, and some kids want to do it because they want to compete, they want to fight, they want to be like, oh, I don't know, like Bruce Lee or whatever. So everybody's a little different. I think that's the biggest thing I learned as a coach is, knowing who's in front of you and how to treat everybody different. I can't coach everybody the same. And that allows me to say, like, as an athlete, it's like I'm not going to go fight in the ring the same as I fight everybody. I got to have a different strategy based on, maybe their wrestling skills are strong or they're faster. And, so it really, really helps me not only as a athlete, but just overall person and interacting and, connecting.
Yeah, I like the way you talk. We can see your education, your discipline, and the passion you have, in this sport, because there's many people like they're coaches,
Yeah.
and their perspective is very not like about values, and this is
Yeah.
like go and fight and this that, and then
Yeah.
that kind of coaches. And I appreciate that, because like at the end we are like in their in their eyes, we are their heroes, and
Yeah.
we are that image, like we're going to start creating someone, a leader in the future.
Yeah.
And yeah, and hey, right now, uh well, not before that question, but so your basis, what do you think is your best? Because I know you like kids, you love kids, and I
Yeah.
actually love your kids, your kicks, I'm sorry. And so you think taekwondo is more, than sanda, like between, because you always use that. Like, what is the best weapon for you?
In Sanda, you're talking about?
I don't know, you overall.
Overall, well, I just think, we use the word style
Yeah.
in martial arts. And at the end of the day, martial arts back in the ancient days, it wasn't for competition or entertainment, it was for survival, right? And so at the end of the day, when it comes to survival, when martial art was created, it was created to be one. No, not separated. Not like, oh, this is kicking. Oh, this is boxing, is punching. Wrestling's only grappling. Before it was all one. And that's kind of a big philosophy that we teach in our organization or at our school, right? Because I have a strong kicking background, not because, oh, yeah, Taekwondo is the best kickers. They are very strong kickers, but that's only because they practice. That's all they practice. When you kick 3,000 times every single day, what are you going to get good at? It's easy logic. It's, oh, you're going to get good at kicking. So what you practice is what you're going to get good at. So, when I grew up competing at the, world-class level for Taekwondo, 90% of it, our focus and training is in kicking.
Yeah.
Now, of course, going into different sports, you adjust. The way I kick is going to be different in Taekwondo than in Sanda. But at the end of the day, kicking is kicking,
Yeah,
So
of course, yeah,
when I first entered, you know, Sonda, my first ever official Sonda fight, I was quickly humbled. I'd just go in there like, oh, you got kicking. My dad's coaching, right? He's like, you got this. You got good kicks. You got solid wrestling background, you know, and, every time I kicked, caught, takedown, caught, takedown, caught, takedown. And Paris Moran, the famous,
yeah,
I had a fortunate, like, that was the one and only time I didn't know who he was. And at the time he had glasses, nerdy looking blonde kid, pretty, like, pretty boy look. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I went in there thinking, I can just use my kicking, and boom, I just got taken down. And obviously, he won the fight. And it's like, you got to be well rounded, especially in Sanda. So
yeah,
it's not about like what you want to do. Really, it's you got to get good at everything, and you
yeah,
got to do what you don't like to do.
yeah. I think I was in one of your fights. I think the first one with uh the the teammate, the Paris Moran teammate,
Gabby.
Gabby.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Gabby. Yeah,
Yep.
I was in the late time. And I was, oh man, like
Yeah,
these guys,
Gabby.
like they kicks awesome.
Yeah, like when I first started competing in Sound, I remember it's Paris, Gabby, Jorge. Like it was all these top level athletes in the U.S. at the time.
Yeah,
So it was like,
yeah,
man, So it was awesome. Yeah.
yeah, man. Like I remember those days, and then I remember the next year we were in the same category in 60 kilograms, but
Yes.
some injuries that I had before we couldn't fight, and then I saw you and like, oh man, this guy, man, I love like this style, and then well, thing happens, and you start, developing a lot of skills, and that's something that I really like from you, because you always like every year is a different style, or not a different style, but you're like upgrades,
Yeah.
and that's something that I really love in the meaning that you are like your evolution, because I saw you like you're trying to train MMA, Taekwondo,
Yes.
Sanda, this and that, and that's a really true martial artist. Like you never stop learning, and it's something that you're like that you are doing now. There's many people in the podcast. Maybe they're new in this podcast. Maybe they're like training a different martial arts. Maybe they're MMA fighters. Maybe they are multi fighters. All the things. And but there's a lot of people always asking, like, we always talk about sacrifice in this podcast, because as a Sanda athletes, we know like we don't have that support as other sports, like Taekwondo or
Yes.
boxing or something at Olympic sports. Like,
Yes.
and we always talk about sacrifice. So what is the like when you start doing this sport like Sanda, as you say, like, oh man, I have to be humble after my first fight,
Yeah.
kicking, catching, this and that. What is like what you was expecting in the first fight, like when you start doing Sanda, and then what was your sacrifice to be here right now, in all this time?
I'll be honest, when I don't remember how Coach Lee and my father got connected, but my father found out about this team trial. It was for team trial for the first university championship in Taiwan. And so I guess somehow he found out about the team trial, and then we traveled, and I was still competing at Taekwondo. I was, at the, like I said, the top of the nation, top 3 in the nation in my weight class, working towards, this was 2016. So, 2020 was the dream for Olympics, right? 2020 Tokyo for Taekwondo. And
Oh yeah,
what my focus was. And, so my father's like, you gotta, try this out. This is something that you can do. Your wrestling background, your kicking background. And I was like, I wasn't super like, oh, I want to do it. I was just like, okay, just try it out. And, I'm so grateful that because, between you and me, and I guess whoever's watching this at the time, US Taekwondo, just they had a lot of issues. And, I hope that a lot of it's getting better, but it was easy for me to transition because, Sanda gave me such a big opportunity,
Yeah,
and Taekwondo, they just had a lot of politics and a lot of, I don't want to be disrespectful because at the end of the day, it was my first love, my first sport.
yeah,
But it was, I'm always about opportunity. So when the opportunity came, I was like, let's do it. And so, when I thought with my background, with the passion, with the group, I think that's a big thing too. Meeting Coach
family.
B, meeting all these people in Sonda, I was like, wow, it's so easy to do what I'm doing because of the people in it.
And yeah, man, and I understand that I don't like to talk about politics in in this podcast, but believe me, I know what you're talking about. So it's really hard because when you're an athlete, you're doing your best, and I think it's every sport. Like it's not only this, but like let's say like I come from Mexico,
Uh,
and and I have friends from boxing that even if they're Olympic sport, like they need to like they 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 don't have an organized
yeah,
organized organization, sorry, and then they need to like they need to do like to sacrifice everything, like even asking for money in the streets and this and that. It's really hard, it's really
yeah,
hard, and that happens a lot in many Latin Americans country, but I understand that. So that's why now we're going to talk about the sacrifice. So what was your sacrifice to transition in this sport? Because even if you're a fighter, like we always see that, like we can see that in every year when we have the national team trials or whatever. Like there's many people who come from a different background to Sanda, and they think, yeah, I'm the best in karate or I'm the best in Muay Thai, but this is different. Like,
right.
and what was your and they live like, nah, this is not for me, but for you, like, man, now you going again to another World Games. You were in Shanghai,
Yeah.
and then what else? University games,
Yeah. University games. I went to the University Championship in Macau. So,
Pan Americans.
Yep. Pan Ams. Yep.
Yeah. So man, you're doing great in this sport. So what was?
Thank you.
How can you describe the sacrifice for this transition?
I think initially the thought, I think when you say sacrifice, it was the idea that I put, I don't know, 15, 16 years into a sport and
Hmm.
then transitioning to a different sport. I think that was a tough decision in a sense that, like I said, I love what I did, Olympic dream. And so um, transitioning out of that, I think that was definitely difficult. But at the same time, I thought I'm always up for the challenge, something that tough, something real. Martial arts is about being real. And, respectfully, Taekwondo, with the element of the sport, it's transitioned into a game more than a fight. And, not to take away from the skills, because, I still believe Taekwondo, they're still the best kickers, you know, but the sport itself, it became a game less than and not a fight. So when I entered Sanda, I was like, while we're focusing on getting points, but you got to be conditioned, you got to be able to take a hit, you got, you're got to get ready to be knocked out or to knock out, because, and a lot of once again, I don't, no disrespect, but point fighting, I'm not a big fan. I know there's benefits of doing it, speed, accuracy, control, but at the end of the day, fight's a fight, and Sanda is one of the most real when it comes to fighting. And
Yeah,
I think that was kind of what helped me be like, okay, this is what I want to do, because I want to do something that challenges me, but also something that's real when it comes to combat.
yeah, I think the same thing. Many people, like in my case as a coach, when they come and like, oh, I'm an MMA fighter, and they try Sunday, like, oh man, like this is the best sport like to
Yeah,
use in MMA because
yeah,
we have everything, kickboxing, boxing, catching, wrestling, takedowns. We have everything, but many people, unfortunately, and there's a, you just mentioned something like from Olympic sport transition to Sanda, like unfortunately, like we're still not in the Olympics. It's
Yeah.
gonna be maybe it's gonna be hard to be. But how you feel, man? Because you just said like, man, I was in the top
Yeah.
three, and then maybe I had the chance to be in the Olympic team, and right now only national team and this, but because sometimes it's like, man, I'm going to sacrifice this for this.
Right.
It's worth it. Well, for you, I think it was, but that's what I'm talking about. Like, how
Right.
you feel, man, in that part.
I just I want to be, I think a lot of times, anytime it's like sacrifice or difficult, I just try to think about the positive sides of all. I wouldn't have been able to travel to all the countries that I have if it wasn't for Sanda. I competed internationally a little bit in Taekwondo, but not as much as I did now as an athlete and a coach in Sanda. So, that's a positive. And just, I have a mindset too, like, okay, Sanda's not an Olympic sport, Wushu's not an Olympic sport. So I either can find an Olympic sport or make my sport an Olympic sport.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, like you and I, we're both trying to promote Sanda, Wushu as a whole. And, my mindset is, after I'm done competing, if I'm not going to Olympics, I want to make my students or future Sanda athletes be able to compete in Olympics.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I want to do everything I can to make Wushu an Olympic sport.
Yeah. 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 It's the same thing. I've been doing this for 32 years, and it's hard to think like I start my background is always wushu and sanda, but then my coach make me focus on Taolu, and then we were in China, right, in the traditional.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, you too. Yeah, me too. We were there. So that's another thing. Like as a martial artist, many people there's two sides, like the fighters and like in Wushu, the fighters and the Taolu. I was like, oh
Yeah.
man, these guys, they're a gymnast, like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that thing. But let me tell you something. Like there's more skills, and we develop more skills because it's not about what you do or what you focus, but it's about like what you're capable to do physically.
yes.
Or like because many fighters like they don't focus on stretching, flexibility. It's just they just want to fight.
You're right.
So
Right.
when you like let's say like you a taekwondo guy and then Wing Chun guy, so man, you have a lot of skills, and then like like many people can see that because many people know like you are more of the skillful people or fighters in the USA team right now,
Uh-huh.
and that's something like I want to talk about this because many people is like, no, I'm proud only to be a fighter. Yeah, good man, but that's why there's a lot of injuries because you're not focused on the main thing
Right.
about your body. How can you explain this, man, to people like you, like as a fighter, and
Yeah.
then like a Taolu and Wing Chun and this and that? How do you can use these skills?
Yeah. I think I think I you probably I think I remember you talking about this in a previous podcast. And there's a difference between a fighter and a martial artist. You have a lot of martial artists that
Yeah,
have no fighting skill. You have a lot of fighters that absolutely have no culture, value, respect. They're not real martial artists, in my opinion.
yeah,
And then you got the few that are true martial artists. They have the culture, the value, and the fighting skills, the combat skills. And so, I'm come from a traditional martial art background, and that's another thing. In the future, I plan to do MMA, and not so much because I want to fight or I want to be make a lot of money from MMA, but more so represent traditional martial arts. You can be respectful, humble, and have all these values that martial art teaches and still have good combat skills. And, to be honest, I think, Wing Chun, that's what I want to share to the world because Wing Chun has a bad name in the combat world. Oh, Wing Chun, that's just Chinese old Kung Fu, Chinese martial arts. That doesn't really work in fighting. And at the end of the day, everybody has their opinion, but I'll just
yeah,
let my actions say otherwise. And so I think even like going back to what you're talking about with the kids, coaching kids, teaching kids. I'm not going to teach them how to fight. What I mean, they're all in a neighborhood where they're pretty relatively safe, and nowadays, that they don't need to worry about fighting or surviving, right? But when I'm teaching the kids, hopefully what I can give the kids is the confidence, or martial arts. I always say martial arts is teaches you how to overcome struggle.
Yeah.
And so with these kids, they overcome or face these challenges they do in martial arts. Everything else in life is easier, and that's kind of how I see it, martial arts. And I want to be real. Once again, martial arts is all about being real. And I think having all-roundedness too, because all the fighters, they're all athletes and amazing athletes, but once they retire, they're out of shape or they're limping. I want to have a family in the future,
Yeah.
and I want to run around with my kids like you. And I'm sure you have a great time with your two
Thank
beautiful
you.
children. And
Thank you.
so, if I'm a fighter and don't care about anything else, then I'll be limping and can't do anything in the future. And
Yeah.
I think martial arts about longevity. That's a big thing too.
And you know what, man? Right now it's like we've been, our relation as a team, is separate a little bit for ages and this and that, whatever. But right now in this podcast, like I can say that now I know that real Vincent, not the fighter, because it's not the same thing when we're in competition or
Yeah.
training with the team. It's not the same thing because it's a different personality.
Yeah.
Because at the end we're fighters, we have our personality, we have our
Yeah.
strategy in the training, in the gym, whatever. But right now you are the real Vincent, and I love the way you are describing. Actually, the last podcast with Bruce, I
Yeah.
love the way he describes Sanda about like the family, the culture, the cultural
Yes.
side. Man, I was like wow, this is Bruce, man. Like, look the way he's describing this sport.
Yeah.
And now I can see your side about how do you describe martial arts, not only Sanda.
Yes.
And I love that. And I appreciate that because to people, maybe I know maybe some of your students or some of your friends, some of your old teammates from Taekwondo, maybe they gotta watch this podcast or listen
Yeah.
this podcast in Spotify, whatever. And he's the real Vincent, man. Like, to those who is like the first time coming to this podcast, or the guys who's just listening this podcast, man, this is the real Vincent. This is the guy. Like, this is the future of this sport also, because at the end we're generations, and the new generation, they're coming stronger and stronger, and that's the way.
Yeah.
That means evolution,
Yeah.
and you're part of that evolution, and I'm really grateful about that because uh as a coach like me, when people comes and I want I want to introduce my kids martial arts, and I want you to be the coach. Okay, awesome. And I always say, okay, this is this. Once he's in my team, he's part of my family.
Yeah.
He's not a be a Conor McGregor. No, no, no.
No.
It's a process. It's a whole process.
Right.
Okay, so to all that people like who think like because you watch UFC on your TV, and because you have the stronger fingers to write whatever you want on the social media, man, you're not a fighter. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
never gonna be a fighter.
Yeah.
If you really want to be a fighter, man, you need to go to schools like the Meng family, like in Lubbock, like here in Laredo, Houston. Like,
Yeah.
we have a lot of good Sanda and Wushu schools in US. There's a
Yes.
California, Phoenix, man. We have a lot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the thing is, like, many people they don't know about this. But man, you have this guy here in this podcast, Vincent, and you can just listen. And to me as a father, and you just and I appreciate the words you use. And yes, my first I get married when I was 32. I think my career as a martial artist, I enjoy it a lot, in the Mexico team, in the Taolu team, when I train in the Beijing with the Beijing team in Taolu and Sanda. I enjoy it a lot, a lot. I love my career. And right now you are the new generation, and people is focused on people like you. Maybe in my generation, people was like, "Oh man, this guy is the best in Jian and in Changshu, and oh, he's the guy right now. He's doing Sanda. Oh man!" But right now, it's people like you, your brothers. Like if you are in Ohio, because you're in Ohio, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
If you're around Ohio or something, and you're looking for a good school, go with him. Because as a father, I want to go, and I want to like I want to hear that words, like those words, like this is martial arts, and I want someone to teach my kids with that philosophy.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really appreciate your words because I know many people, and I hope this podcast, we're not using this podcast as a marketing, or we're not making money. We are just talking about because we love this. But
Yeah.
I know many people going to trying to to reach your school, maybe to contact you, because man, you just said something beautiful in this thing, as a coach, as an athlete, as a future father, whatever your thoughts, your philosophy, your discipline, your values is what I want for my kids.
Mhm.
I don't want a street fighter coach.
Yeah.
I want a philosopher, I want someone like you, man, because even Bruce, man, even Bruce last week, man, I was like, when we finished everything, I was talking with my wife about this, and like, oh man, like we always have fun about us. Bruce and I, we have a relation, like really good relation, and I always like, hey man, you retired me because of my rib and this and that. But man, at the end, well, you was there actually, and
Yeah.
at the end, it's like it's part of the game.
Yep.
It's part of the game, man.
Right.
And we everything have a reason. And Vincent, right now we're gonna jump to the World Games. Right now, you're going to represent USA in Dallas the next November. How do you feel, man?
Oh man, I'm just it's a mixed feeling of like I'm so excited. Like I arguably to me in my eyes, in my mind, this is the biggest tournament yet, in a sense that not so much size or even the level. Yes, it's the highest wushu, tournament in the world level competitiveness. But to me, what I mean by like the most, the biggest is most important to me yet this far. I'm putting my heart and mind and body into this. And, I'm here in Lubbock for 6 weeks. And, it's a sacrifice in itself, not only for me, I'm sleeping on the gym floor, but it's a sacrifice for the family. I teach full time at the school and I love kids. And so it's harder, I think, for me. It's like, oh man, to not be with my students, even just 6 weeks. It's only a month or a half, but it's like
A lot.
a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice. And so I'm not doing this for myself. At the end of the day, I go in there, I fight as a individual, but win, lose, this is for everybody. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for anybody and everybody involved. So I'm so excited. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think 6 weeks, I still got a lot of work to do. So I just give it my all, no regrets. Doesn't matter the results on paper. I just want to go in there, have no regrets.
Yeah, man. But yeah, you just came from the university games, right?
Yes, university games. Yeah, so that was eye-opening. I had a very tough country first fight. I was moving up a weight class, and it was humbling once again and eye-opening in a sense that's like, okay, I tell myself, remind myself to have the confidence of being a top athlete, but at the same time, like you're saying, we always got to improve, always got to learn. There's always room to improve. And, I'm going to be crazy for the next 6 weeks. I'm going to tell myself, why not? Why? Yeah, China, Iran, all these top countries, but, so it's going to be tough, but why not? Why can't we? Why can't US win a medal? Why can't US have a gold? And so I joke around actually with my girlfriend. We just tell ourselves, be delusional. be delusional. Tell yourself that you're the best. Tell yourself you're gonna, you're gonna. These guys are no problem. So that's kind
But
of the mindset.
yeah, but that's part of your training, because once you are training, it's I always talk about my experience when I was in Indonesia in 2015. Man, I went to like I was in Beijing for 1 month, training with the A team, sparring with the A team, with the best 60 kilos, the 65 kilos, the 56 kilos, the 70, and I was doing great. But once I was there in the Lei Tai, everything just, I don't know what happened, man. I started shaking, and what I'm doing here, am I
Yeah,
really want to be here? Like, oh man, I fought India, one of the best countries. Like, oh
yeah,
fuck, But at the end, man, at the end, it's like, yeah, man, you just say like, go 100%, man. You have the chance to be in that late tie, and as you say, man, I'm going to be there screaming like a girl, like, oh, go, man, go beat it. Of course, man, I gotta, because we are one. You just said it, man. We are one. We're a team. We are there for support each other, and I love to see you, man, with like, the judge doing this, and in the top three tip, whatever, man. As you said, man, it's just, why not, man? Why not?
yeah,
It's not only a dream. It's like, it's just, you just follow your dreams, chase your dreams. And this is for everyone who's listening this, and maybe there's a lot of people from Mexico team, always like, they're fans of this podcast, and 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 Brazil, Argentina. So man, for everyone there, man, if you going to compete in these games, even Pan Am's, that's the mindset.
yeah,
I'm the best, and you just said something, man. You're sacrificing your life for 6 weeks, sleeping in the floor and this and that, like far from your family. That support, I think that's going to make you, like stronger mentally,
yeah,
speaking, because man, it's tough, man.
yeah,
It's tough. It's tough. And you're doing good, man. That's the sacrifice that I want to, talk about, because right now, I had the chance to train with Vincent, and share some, days with him, with Vincent, and your student is
Andrew, Andrew,
Andrew, a really good guy. Also, I hope you get better. Hey, man, Andrew,
yeah,
if you are watching or listening, Hawks, man, I love you, man, and all the team, and Matthew, and it was like a connection. Maybe for me, like, I'm 30-year-old, they are like younger and this, but
yeah,
we made that connection, and they're very humble guys, and I know Vincent, he gonna do well. You're gonna do well. He fought with one of my students, Rodrigo. Young guy, and he respect a lot, and Rodrigo learns a lot from him, and I can tell you, man, like, this guy is the real deal for the USA team right now. Everyone, everyone. I know Vincent gonna do well, and believe me, Vincent, I'm praying for all of you. For Bruce, Jaden, you, Coach Lee, Mix, everyone in the team, because I know the pressure you're gonna have, because you're gonna be the country, and but Vincent, you're doing great, man. Like, whatever happens there, like, man, you're in the books, right? You know what I mean?
thank you, thank you.
You're in the books, and all your, like, to all your students, like, you must be proud of your coach, man, because it's very awesome to, because sometimes it's hard to be a coach and athlete, and I can talk about myself, because it's really hard when you coach or you practice. It's hard, and I know for Vincent, it's hard, and as he said, like, I'm here for everyone, not only by myself, and that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you. I'm my heart's beating fast just talking about it, listening to you, and yeah.
thank
At the end of the day, it's the passion, the love that we have. Yeah,
man. You have everything, and all the team, man. Like, again, Bruce was last week talking about his experience and expectings and everything, and he looks like chill, like okay, I'm gonna do this, and I will do my best. I'm gonna win. I want a medal. Yeah, everyone, and it's the same for you, man. So I know you need to leave, but Vincent, do you want to add something about the games, about the how do you feel with the team right now? Because I know you're training, the national team's training.
Yeah,
How are you feeling?
The five of us getting ready. Livingston's not here right now, but to me, that's team captain. He's the most veteran, I think, when it comes to the five of us. And it's interesting because our last world championship 4 years ago, I was a newbie. I was the young kid. I was the youngest. Everybody's fought at worlds before. And so, this year, 4 years later, because of COVID and, it's interesting. I have my seniors, Bruce and then Livingston. I'm so excited for them
Yeah,
because, they've been going at it and they just, you never know when it's going to be the last world championship. Not to say it's their last world championship, but you never know. Maybe this is their mindset. Like, this is the last one. Maybe not. I don't
yeah,
know for sure. And then we also have, Audrey's more of a veteran than me, honestly. Of course, being younger, she's younger than me, but she's been at the sport when it comes to Sanda. To me, in my opinion, she's, the best female U.S. athletes, in Sanda ever.
yeah,
And so I'm excited to see her. And then we have Jaden, the first time competing, I believe, internationally. So it's
yeah.
very exciting. He's close to my weight and we've been working a lot. I see his passion just as much as all of us and his motivation to do well. So it's exciting. I was just training. Him and I were just training yesterday by ourselves just because we want to get extra work in. And it's very motivational to have this entire team just like, from all different stages, our veterans to, me kind of in the middle maybe, and then to some of the newer guys. So I'm excited, it's very cool. And then, Coach Lee too, been so busy and, but him
I
still
know,
able to be here working with us. It just, you know,
I
it,
know, man, and yeah. So in the team is how many? It's gonna be you. Is Audrey,
Audrey,
Jaden.
myself, Jaden, Bruce, and Livingston.
Okay, good, awesome. On Livingston, I think he gonna do well. Man, he's a monster, like in the good way. I love you, Livingston. If you're watching or listening to this, and he's a monster. He's one of the his mindset. I love his mindset,
Yeah.
and the power he have. Is, man, it's the Black Mamba. It's really strong guy. It's many people. Like when I remember, well, I don't want to say names, well, but I remember some guys like when he just showed up, he's like, okay, I'm dead. Yeah, I'm gonna fight this guy. Like, oh man, and one of my students, him, Carlos. He was with you in the Shanghai team. He was your teammate. He
Yes.
always talking about like, hey man, hey coach, we practiced yesterday, and hey coach, if you see Livingston, let him know that I'm with him. Like we always sharing about our experience, you know, and he always talking about the experience with you guys as an athlete.
Yes.
I had the chance to be there with you as assistant coach and assisting the team, and it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful when you're there because the last time in Shanghai, which this guy in blue is him, it's been some, just sorry, not your whole face, but when you're there, you know, behind the scenes, behind the Lei Tai, or behind in the warm-up area, because you guys, maybe you're gonna be in the just sitting there, like not you, like the people's watching this, but when you are in the warm-up area, man, you can feel the energy,
Yeah.
even if you're not a fighter, like you can feel the energy, like everyone's there. Like if you like Dragon Ball and that kind of cartoons, something like that, like that energy between, and a lot of testosterone, and then when like you go in there, like, man, everything, even if you're not the fighter, man, I can tell you that, like, the heartbeat, Jesus Christ, man, it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's something beautiful because you just said something. It's the experience. Maybe you're gonna live once. Maybe this is the last time that you're gonna be there. And but that experience is gonna be in your life forever, in the books.
Right.
And maybe one day, like your children go, "Oh man, my father he fought these here and there." And I think you gotta be a good father. For sure, man. You have the values, you have the
Thank you.
discipline, and I know that. And man, lastly, you want to add something like a motivational. You want to say something for the future generation, for the kids.
Yeah, I think passion, like I use that word a lot. I think it goes a long way. Anybody in the US taking this at a high level, you have to have it, especially in this sport, being a smaller sport in our country, that's there first. If you don't love it, then it's going to be hard to, you know, take it far just in that sense. Passion's so important. You don't have to love everything you do. Part of it. No one likes weight cutting. Right?
Oh man.
Passion doesn't mean you have to love everything. Passion means you do everything even though you don't like it. You still go through it. And, another big thing is just be grateful, especially in my adult life. I think being appreciative and grateful for the people in my life is so important, for everybody. I think having gratitude, my parents, coaches, family, friends, is just having gratitude. Always be thankful of the people around you. Maybe people don't come from a lot. People, it's a self-made man, what they say, and I have the highest respect for those type of people too. But there's always going to be that one person or small group of people that, get you to where you are. I can't say I'm not a self-made man. I push myself, I motivated, I have that passion, but it takes a whole village. And so being grateful for who you have and, keeping them around too. The people who you want to be like, the people you want to, that you see is success in your eyes, keep them in your life. I think that's the biggest thing I can say for anybody, not just in martial arts, but, and in life and anything you do.
Wow, man. Thank you, man. Where can we? I don't know if there's people. I know you have online training.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
good. Go, please talk about that before we leave. So
You
because
know,
wait, yeah,
I,
let's. I'm sorry, just because like people, if you want to, where can we find you actually? And if you still have the online training, and if we want to, to take your online classes, whatever, how can we train with the champ?
Yeah, so I did a soft launch, it's not nothing official. Like I didn't do my hard launch yet, but just something that I have a small group that I started. It's called the Sondaverse. Essentially at the end of the day, this was just my way to contribute back to the sport, contribute back to what made me. And, with my skill set experience, it's just my way of sharing. I know a lot of people, especially in the sport of Sanda, there is just, unless you're in Texas, unless you're maybe in Dayton, Ohio, these certain areas, then you don't really get that Sanda training. So this was my way of providing and, sharing Sanda, the sport. But, like you said and earlier, it's like to me, Sanda and just martial arts as a whole is much more. And so I don't yes, I use the word Sanda, but in there, I think it's helpful for any combat athlete, any people that want to gain skill set. And, it's a community more. I call it the Sanda. It was Sanda universe. That's what it really is. Sandaverse, right? It's not so much, I don't want it to be right now. It's, more videos, learning, but my goal for it is to create a community, and you don't have to be in person for it. You can be anywhere around the world, and we can connect and be a community where we can talk, share, learn about Sanda. So yeah, I have my website. It's on my website, or if you just look up Sandaverse, Sanda, Sanda, and then -VERSE. My website, vincentmengusa.com. That's where it's on.
Instagram, Facebook.
Yes, it's all there. Vincent Meng USA. That's the easiest way to find me, and then through Vincent Meng USA, you can find the Sondaverse.
Yeah, guys, if you are interested, please go and I'm gonna actually like when we finish, I'm gonna ask you to send me everything so I can put it down in the description of the videos and the YouTube. So guys, the information is gonna be here in the bottom in the comments, and you can comment if you want to contact him. You can comment there, and I can call him. Hey, this is the guy. This is for everyone, and this is a good opportunity to be training with the champ. We have a different methodologies, and there's good to learn different methodologies as a martial artist.
Perspectives. Yeah.
Don't as a martial artist, don't try always to that pride about like, no, only this. No, 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 no. Like, try, like in my case, I started in Mexico, and then in China, and then US, and I always trying to learn the best from everything: boxing, uh sanda, taekwondo, karate. I'm always trying to, and I know this guy here, Vincent, going to help you, and he's a really good guy. Actually, he's an entrepreneur also, and I know that you have your bachelor's and everything, so you
Mhm.
can see like many of our like many of us, we have education, we have our own businesses, and I'm talking about like we're not only athletes, we have a life, and this is the beauty of this sport. We have our lives, but also we're doing this because of passion. So you can imagine how hard it is to be a sanda athlete around the world. Well, not in China, not Iran, but
Yeah.
around the other countries. Yes, it's not easy. More in America, man. Hey, Vincent, it was awesome, man. Thank
Yes.
you, man. I hope in the future we can have another podcast, and maybe with your, like, the three brothers.
Oh yeah,
It's gonna
absolutely.
be awesome. That's
That'd
gonna
be
be
cool.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna see you in Dallas, and I hope we can share some videos with the people, because at the end, I know a lot of people love you, and I know a lot of people follow you, and again, guys, this podcast is for them. I'm just a voice. I'm just here to contribute. He said, like, to let people know about these skillful guys, and the strong, they are. We had Iran, we have people from Argentina, from Brazil, we have people from Lebanon in this podcast. And if you go, this is the 20th podcast. If you go, if you're if you speak Spanish also, you can go there, and there's a lot of in Spanish. And if you only speak English, this is the podcast for you guys. If you're any MMA, we're not that kind of podcast who just laughing from others and like talking about who's stronger. Nah, we are humble guys talking about martial arts, contribute more for this sport, and I want you to know more about this guy and these guys in this podcast, because honestly, you're gonna learn a lot. I still sometimes when I'm I've I unfortunately in my life, I had some episodes in my life, so sometimes I have anxiety, and because of some things that happens in my life before, and I what I do sometimes when I'm training just by myself and I feel depressed, I play the podcast. And one of the podcasts that I always like to hear is one of the Argentina and Brazil and Lebanon, because like, wow, man, like every podcast, but it's it's a type of motivation for me to go and like, man, you're not wrong, man. Like, it's just you need to push yourself, as you said. You need to push yourself, man. If you want to be the champion, you know that you're going to train 4 or 5 days a day, every day. If you want to be at that level, you know that you're going to sacrifice parties. You know that you're going to sacrifice personal life more when you are married. Because unfortunately, I know a lot of people, when I was in the Mexico team, some of them, they got divorced because they was doing what they love to, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy, man. But I just hearing the podcast with you, and and it's like many people gonna get motivated. And again, man, this is for you. I know many people supporting you. I know your team supporting you, your family, your girlfriend, your brothers, even myself from here from Laredo. Everyone's supporting you guys, so you're not alone. You're not alone. And anytime, and if you are like that night, and in every night or something you feel alone, amen, you can text me, amen, what, or anyone. I know you are part of our the team, and you're gonna be representing USA, and all everyone is with you guys, and I hope, and I'm gonna pray. I'm actually, after here, I'm going to church, and I'm going to pray for you guys, because I know how hard is this, and I wish you the best, and I hope you can get the gold medal.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity to just even talk. This is a
Wow.
lot, and I learn a lot just having a discussion. So opens the mind, gets me thinking. So thank you.
Man, thank you, man. I love you, man. Thank you, everyone. So this is the 20th podcast with Vincent Meng, USA, 65 kilograms, the champ, one of the best, honestly, one of the best fighters in USA in this sport, Taekwondo, in Wing Chun, and what else?
That's our focus. Wing Chun, Sanda, any traditional martial arts.
Okay, in everything. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I really enjoyed it as always. Thank you, thank you, Vincent, and see you in the next one. Who's gonna be the next? Maybe, I don't know, Audrey, maybe Jaden, maybe Livingston. But I hope you like it, and please follow us, like us. Again, this is not for money. This is because we love sports, because we love martial arts. And thank you so much. See you soon. Don't go, man.